Have you ever noticed that some people walk into your life not to love you, but to drain the very light from your spirit? Have you ever felt a presence so heavy that your soul whispered, "This person is not who they appear to be"? Here is the secret no one teaches you. The most dangerous darkness in this world doesn't roar. It smiles, it hugs, it pretends. And the moment you begin to trust it, you lose pieces of yourself you didn't even know were missing. Stay with me, because when you finish listening to this, you will recognize your power again. You will finally understand that you are a queen, and it's time you start acting like one. Let us begin. 1. The silent distortion of your energy. There comes a moment in every woman's life when she realizes that not all storms come with thunder. Some storms arrive quietly, in the shape of a person, in the tone of a voice, in the shift of an atmosphere. And the strange part is, your spirit feels it long before your mind has the language to explain it. Something inside you tightens, almost imperceptibly, like the way the ocean pulls back before a wave rises. A soft warning, a subtle shift, a whisper that says, pay attention. Because some people don't disturb your life by what they say. They disturb it simply by being there. Their presence doesn't clash with your schedule, it clashes with your soul. You feel drained after talking to them, even if the conversation wasn't intense. You feel smaller, even though they didn't directly attack you. You feel unsettled, even though on the surface, everything looks normal. And you begin to wonder if the problem is you, or if the problem is the energy they carry. Energy speaks before words do. Energy reveals truth before behavior shows patterns. Energy, especially distorted energy, announces itself in silence. And what is that distortion? It is the feeling you get when someone's spirit pulls at yours, not to support you, but to siphon from you. The quiet discomfort, the heaviness in your chest, the sense that your intuition is tugging at your sleeve, saying, this person wants access, not alignment. Their energy enters your space like a shadow, subtle yet invasive, like a hand reaching for a part of you they never earned the right to touch. You try to dismiss it. That's what most people do. You tell yourself, maybe I'm imagining things, maybe it's my mood, maybe I'm being judgmental, because the mind always wants proof. But the soul operates on truth, and the truth is simple. Your peace is wiser than your thoughts. When something distorts your peace, it's not random. It's spiritual intelligence speaking through sensation. The tightening in your heart, the discomfort in your stomach, the sudden fatigue. These are not flaws in your perception. These are signals. Signals that you are standing in the presence of someone whose energy does not harmonize with yours. Some souls uplift you simply by existing. Other souls drain you even when they haven't said a word. And the dangerous ones are the souls that drain you quietly. Because loud danger alerts you. Silent danger confuses you. It is the kind of distortion that makes you second-guess your instincts. The kind that wears your intuition down softly until you stop trusting your own spiritual radar. The kind that slowly erodes your sense of direction until you begin drifting away from yourself. This is how a demonic person enters your life, not by force, but by frequency, not by confrontation, but by quiet invasion. They don't break your boundaries, they seep through the cracks. They don't challenge your confidence, they absorb it. They don't ask for your energy, they feed off the energy you spill. And you don't notice right away. You rarely do. Because the first stage is subtle, always subtle. You start having restless nights. Your emotional sensitivity increases. You doubt yourself more. You feel more on edge. Your joy feels somehow dimmer. Your thoughts feel slightly heavier. Nothing dramatic, but everything noticeable. You see, the spirit always feels the shift before the mind can define the shift. And this is the silent distortion, the quiet, unseen manipulation of your inner landscape. But here's where the pattern begins to reveal itself. That distortion is never the end. It is always the beginning. Because once a demonic presence senses that your energy has been softened and your intuition has been destabilized, their next move is inevitable. The confusion begins. Keynote 2. They thrive on your confusion. Confusion is not an accident. It is a tool, a weapon, a tactic designed to dismantle the relationship you have with yourself. Because when a woman is clear, she is powerful. When a woman is grounded, she is untouchable. When a woman trusts her intuition, she cannot be manipulated. So, to break you, they must blur you. A demonic personality does not approach your strength directly. They approach the edges of your certainty. They whisper contradictions into your confidence. They sprinkle doubt into your decisions. They make inconsistencies feel like misunderstandings, and misunderstandings feel like your fault. It begins softly. A subtle comment that makes you question your memory. A gentle critique that makes you question your worth. A confusing reaction that makes you question whether you're too sensitive. And slowly, confusion becomes their language, while self-doubt becomes yours. You find yourself questioning things you never questioned before. Did I misunderstand? Maybe I'm overthinking. Maybe I should be more patient. Maybe I am too emotional. But notice something important. You never used to question yourself this way before they entered your life. That shift is not coincidence. It's influence. Confusion is how dark energy creates dependence. Because the moment you become unsure of yourself, you begin relying on them for clarity. And that gives them spiritual authority they have never earned. They want your mind disoriented, because an unclear mind becomes a compliant heart. You start waiting for their approval. You start adjusting yourself to avoid their disapproval. You start shrinking your voice so they won't criticize it. You start silencing your intuition because they challenge it. And without realizing it, they become the filter through which you interpret yourself. This is how they thrive. Not through power, but through confusion. Their goal is not to overpower you. Their goal is to make you mistrust yourself. Because when a woman mistrusts herself, she becomes vulnerable to manipulation disguised as love. And no weapon is sharper than love twisted into fear. Confusion is spiritual fog. It blocks your inner vision. It makes your instincts feel like illusions. It makes your warnings feel like anxiety. And the more confused you feel, the more powerful they become. This is why some people apologize in ways that make you feel guilty. This is why some people comfort you in ways that make you feel weak. This is why some people care in ways that make you feel controlled. It's confusion wrapped in affection, manipulation wrapped in kindness, darkness wrapped in softness. But there is one place where confusion hides most effectively, in the sweetness of their words. And that sweetness is where the next layer of darkness begins to expose itself. Because when confusion alone is not enough, they begin using language as a weapon. Soft, sugary, and dangerously deceptive. Keynote 3. Their words sound sweet but taste bitter. You learn with time that the most dangerous poison is not the poison that burns your tongue. It is the poison that tastes like honey first. Some people speak with such gentle tones that you feel safe leaning in, unaware that their softness is not an expression of their soul, but a strategy crafted to disarm yours. Their words wrap around you like silk, warm and inviting, comforting and persuasive. But once they settle inside your heart, something feels off, something feels wrong, something feels bitter. Because sweetness, when misused, becomes seduction. And seduction, when misused, becomes control. The demonic nature of such people lies not in their anger, but in their charm. Charm is their mask. Sweetness is their method. Words are their tools. They say the right things at the right time, not to love you, but to lower your guards. They learn your insecurities, not to heal them, but to weaponize them. They learn your weaknesses, not to support you, but to anchor themselves deep within your emotional landscape. And how do they do it? With compliments that feel slightly off, with admiration that feels conditional, with promises that feel too light to hold weight. They might say, "You're so strong," but their tone implies you shouldn't express pain. They might say, "You're so independent," but their behavior punishes you for acting like it. They might say, "I care about you," but their actions reflect only self-interest. This is how sweetness becomes manipulation, how affection becomes a trap, how words become chains dressed like ribbons. You start relying on their praise because their criticism cuts deeper than it should. You start craving their validation because their disapproval feels unbearable. You start seeking their reassurance because you no longer know what your own intuition sounds like. And it is in this dependency that their true intention reveals itself. They want to be your emotional source, so they can become your spiritual ruler. Words have power. Words shape perception. Words build worlds inside the mind. And when someone controls your perception, they control the world inside you. This is why their sweetness eventually tastes bitter. Because your soul can sense the deception even when your mind cannot articulate it. There is always a moment, a quiet, slow, reflective moment, when you sit alone after interacting with them and you think, why do their compliments make me feel smaller? Why does their affection make me feel weaker? Why do their sweet words leave a sour feeling in my spirit? That moment is awakening. That moment is clarity. That moment is the unraveling of the spell. Because once you taste the bitterness behind the sweetness, you begin to see the truth behind the person. And seeing the truth is the first step toward reclaiming the parts of yourself you lost while trying to understand them. And once that awakening begins, the spirit within you rises, ready for the next revelation, the next boundary, the next evolution. 4. There comes a moment in every life where silence becomes louder than noise and stillness reveals more truth than movement ever could. It is the moment when you stop chasing answers outside and begin listening to the quiet tremors inside your own chest. People assume growth happens in the spotlight, but the deepest transformations happen in the shadowed corners of your private world. The thoughts you never speak, the questions you never ask aloud, the emotions that simmer beneath every breath. In these hidden places, you meet the version of yourself you've been avoiding. The version that knows the truth, even when you try to pretend you don't. And maybe that's why discomfort visits us, not as punishment, but as a guide, a whisper, a gentle tug on the sleeve of your consciousness saying, pay attention. Something inside you wants to shift. And when you finally turn inward, the truth doesn't arrive with thunder. It comes softly, like dawn. It unveils itself slowly, asking you not for perfection, but for honesty. The honesty to admit that you've outgrown certain patterns, outgrown certain expectations, outgrown the version of yourself that learned to survive but never learned to breathe. Something magical happens when you stop explaining yourself to people who cannot understand the language of your soul. When you stop begging for validation from places that were never capable of giving it. When you stop bending your spirit to fit into shapes that were never meant for you. This is where real liberation begins. Not in changing the world around you, but in reclaiming the world within you. Because the moment you choose inner truth over external approval, your life quietly shifts direction. You feel the weight lift. You feel the veil fall. You feel your heartbeat strengthen with a clarity you didn't know you were missing. And just when this clarity begins to settle, another realization rises, like a second sunrise behind the first. A realization that leads us into the next truth. A truth that gently illuminates everything you once questioned. Because sometimes the world mirrors back to you exactly what your soul is ready to understand next. 5. What you allow is what will continue. Those words echo not as a warning, but as a revelation. Because somewhere along the path, you discover that life has always been responding to your standard. Not your desires, not your dreams, not your intentions, your standard. Every time you tolerated disrespect in the name of patience. Every time you accepted crumbs in the hope it would turn into a feast. Every time you smiled to keep the peace while your spirit trembled beneath your skin. Life was taking notes. It wasn't punishing you, it was teaching you. It was showing you that your boundaries were not walls, they were reflections of your self-worth. And every boundary you delayed, avoided, or softened taught someone how to treat you. We talk about people changing, when in truth we simply reveal to them how much or how little we're willing to accept. And when you finally decide, I deserve more than this, something breathtaking happens. Life rearranges itself around your new self-respect. People fall away, not because you're cold, but because you're clear. Opportunities shift, not because you're lucky, but because your energy finally matches the path meant for you. Peace enters, not as a visitor, but as a rightful resident. Your soul begins to glow again, because it recognizes that you've stopped abandoning yourself. And it's here, in this new, radiant understanding, that you realize something deeper. You were never meant to fight for your value. You were meant to embody it. You are meant to speak from it, stand in it, breathe through it. And once you do, the people who cannot respect your worth quietly fade into the background, not by force, by natural law. This is the sacred turning point where you learn that protecting your peace is not arrogance, it's alignment. It's the moment your life begins to reflect the truth your heart has always known. And just when the world begins to settle into this new clarity, a deeper question rises from within. If I am now honoring my worth, what will life look like when I finally let go of the things I've been gripping too tightly? Because that is where the next layer of transformation begins. This letting go is not the art of losing. It is the art of trusting. Trusting that whatever is leaving your life has completed its work. Trusting that whatever is meant to remain will never require you to betray your peace. Trusting that the space created by release is not empty, it is sacred, it is fertile, it is preparing you. We hold on because we fear the unknown. We hold on because familiarity feels safer than freedom. We hold on because our hearts remember the good moments more vividly than the painful ones. But the soul knows when something has finished its purpose. And when you resist that truth, the weight becomes unbearable. You feel it in your body. You feel it in your spirit. You feel it in the tears you swallow and the smiles you fake. Letting go is not a sudden moment. It is a quiet process. It's waking up one morning and realizing the memory no longer burns. It's hearing their name and noticing your breath stays steady. It's looking at your life and seeing that the chapter is closed, not because the story ended in the way you hoped, but because you finally healed past the need for it. Release becomes a blessing disguised as loss, a doorway disguised as disappointment, a new beginning disguised as an ending. And then, almost imperceptibly, your spirit starts to rise again. You feel lighter. You feel clearer. You feel the slow return of yourself to yourself. Because letting go does not take something from you. It gives something back. Your power, your voice, your balance, your inner stillness. The world begins to feel different because you are different. You are no longer operating from fear, but from wisdom. No longer from scarcity, but from fullness. And this is the moment where every ending you ever resisted suddenly makes sense. It had to happen. It had to shift. It had to fall away. Not to break you, but to bring you back to the place you were always meant to rise from. And so, the journey continues. Because once you master the art of release, life invites you into a deeper, more sacred truth. A truth that asks you not just to let go, but to rise into the version of yourself you were born to become. 7. There comes a moment on this journey where you realize that life is not simply happening to you. It is happening through you. Every thought becomes a brushstroke, every feeling becomes a color, and every decision becomes part of the canvas you didn't even realize you were painting. And somewhere along the line you recognize that your inner world has always been the architect of your outer experience, not the circumstances, not the people, not the events that unfolded without your permission, but you. This understanding arrives like a soft dawn, slow, subtle, and impossible to ignore once you've seen the light. Suddenly, you start noticing how your thoughts shape your atmosphere, how your energy shifts the tone of a room before you ever speak, how your spirit draws toward itself exactly what it believes it deserves. You begin to understand that you were never powerless. You were simply unaware of the magnitude of the power already inside you. And when this realization settles into your bones, it brings with it a new kind of responsibility. Not the harsh responsibility of blame, but the sacred responsibility of awareness. Because now you see how every choice, every reaction, every silence, every word carries the weight of creation. You understand that your inner narrative is not a private whisper, it is a blueprint. Whatever you repeat within yourself becomes a pattern. Whatever you believe becomes a magnet. Whatever you nurture becomes your reality. This is when you begin to treat your thoughts with more reverence. You start catching the moments where you speak defeat into your own life, not because you're weak, but because you've been conditioned to expect less. You notice the subtle ways you shrink to avoid discomfort, the subconscious ways you reject blessings because you don't believe you're ready, the invisible threads of doubt that pull you back into old cycles. And instead of judging yourself, you simply witness it. You breathe, you pause, you allow the awareness to soften you, not shame you. Because now you understand that the mind does not need punishment to grow. It needs gentleness, it needs compassion. It needs guidance, not reprimand. As you cultivate this awareness, something miraculous begins to take shape. You start returning to yourself, the version of you that existed before fear whispered its first warning, the version of you that believed in possibility before disappointment carved its lessons into your chest, the version of you that knew you were connected to something deeper, something timeless, something infinite. This return is not loud, it is not dramatic, it is subtle, like remembering a melody you loved as a child, like recalling a dream you thought you had forgotten. Each moment of awareness becomes a step back home, a step toward the wisdom that has always lived in the quiet corners of your being. And as you settle into this inner clarity, a new question begins to rise, a gentle nudge from the universe, asking if you're ready to understand the next layer of truth. A truth that asks, if your inner world is shaping your life, then how do you learn to trust what you feel deep within? 8. Trusting your intuition is not about predicting the future. It's about remembering who you are. There is a voice inside you that has been speaking long before the world taught you how to doubt. A voice that knows the difference between what feeds your soul and what drains it. A voice that recognizes alignment before your mind can articulate why. Most people spend their lives searching for signs outside themselves, unaware that the strongest compass is already inside their chest. But intuition isn't loud. It doesn't argue. It doesn't plead. It doesn't negotiate. It whispers. It nudges. It stirs the air around your spirit in such a subtle way that you can easily overlook it if you're too busy, too distracted, too afraid to listen. So the journey becomes one of quieting, of softening, of lowering the noise inside your mind until the whisper becomes unmistakable. Because intuition speaks in vibrations, a tightening in the stomach, a stillness in the heart, a sudden clarity that emerges without any logical explanation. It speaks in the way your body reacts before your thoughts catch up. It speaks in the way your energy shifts when something is right or terribly wrong. But intuition requires courage, because it will often guide you into the unknown. It will ask you to walk away from situations your mind has rationalized, from people your emotions are attached to, from habits that feel comfortable but no longer serve your expansion. Intuition does not care about convenience, it cares about truth. And truth is rarely the easiest choice. Listening to intuition means trusting that sometimes the path ahead will not reveal itself until you take the first step. It means believing that the discomfort of uncertainty is far less dangerous than ignoring the signals your soul is sending you. It means honoring your inner knowing even when others don't understand it, because they're not meant to. Your intuition is your personal conversation with life, not theirs. And as you begin following this inner guidance, something profound happens. Life becomes clearer. The confusion fades, the resistance softens. Decisions that once felt heavy now flow with ease. You stop forcing what doesn't fit. You stop chasing what runs. You stop clinging to things that are collapsing in your hands. You begin to trust that what is meant for you will never require you to betray yourself. And what is not meant for you will never stay, no matter how tightly you hold it. This understanding does not make life easier, but it makes it more authentic, more aligned, more true. And this alignment leads you to an even deeper revelation, one that reshapes your entire relationship with growth, with healing, with transformation. Because when you trust your inner voice, you begin to see that change is not your enemy. It is your invitation, your awakening, your evolution. And this understanding gently pulls you into the next truth, like a tide guiding you toward the shore. A truth that asks, if intuition leads you, then who do you become when you finally surrender to the transformation it calls you into? 9. Transformation is not a moment, it is a rebirth. And rebirth rarely feels gentle. It feels like shedding layers you thought were permanent. It feels like breaking open parts of yourself you've kept sealed for years. It feels like standing at the edge of everything familiar and trusting that your wings will remember how to open. People assume transformation is beautiful, and in its final form it is. But during the process, it feels like unraveling. It feels like dissolving. It feels like losing versions of yourself you didn't realize you had outgrown. And yet, this unraveling is sacred. It is necessary. Because you cannot become who you are meant to be while carrying the weight of who you once were. Transformation demands honesty. The kind of honesty that forces you to look at the choices you made out of fear, the relationships you clung to out of loneliness, the dreams you abandoned because they felt too heavy to carry. It asks you to stop hiding behind the excuses you've outgrown, to stop dimming your light for people who fear their own shadows, to stop shrinking so others feel more comfortable. And yes, transformation often begins with heartbreak. Not always the heartbreak caused by another person, but the heartbreak caused by confronting your own truth. The heartbreak of realizing you stayed too long, or settled too much, or silenced too many parts of yourself just to keep the peace. That kind of heartbreak cracks you open. It makes space where there was once tension. It allows light to enter places that were once closed off. But with every crack, something new is born. Courage, clarity, conviction, and a profound understanding that your life was never meant to stay small. Transformation is the moment you stop trying to return to who you used to be, because you finally realize that person was created for a version of life you've already outgrown. You are meant to evolve, you are meant to expand, you are meant to rise. And rising requires release. Rising requires risk. Rising requires trust in the unknown, trust in the invisible, trust in the whisper that tells you there is more. And then, one day, almost without noticing it, you begin to breathe differently, you wake differently, you speak differently, you choose differently. Not because you forced a new version of yourself into existence, but because the old version simply no longer fits. You become the living proof of your own healing. You become the evidence of your own resilience. You become the embodiment of the transformation you once feared. And just when you think the journey has reached its peak, life leans in once more, softly, gently, almost lovingly, and asks you to prepare for what comes next. A next chapter that requires not just your transformation, but your embodiment. 10. There comes a point in your awakening where you realize that not everyone who walks beside you is meant to walk within you. Some people are only meant to be observed, not absorbed. And this becomes one of the most difficult lessons to learn, because the heart wants to believe that love, kindness, or good intentions alone can change the nature of another person. But the truth is far more intricate, far more sobering, far more sacred. Some souls carry storms within them. They carry shadows they refuse to face, wounds they refuse to heal, patterns they refuse to break. And if you are not careful, your light, the very light you fought so hard to reclaim, becomes the energy their darkness feeds on. Not because you're weak, but because they are empty. And emptiness is always hungry. This is why self-awareness isn't just a spiritual practice, it is a survival skill. You must learn to see beyond words, beyond charm, beyond surface-level gestures. You must learn to feel the undercurrent of a person's presence. Some people enter the room, and your spirit rises gently, like a tide being pulled by the moon. Others enter the room, and your spirit tightens, as if your soul is whispering, "Be still. This one is not for you." At first, you ignore this feeling, because you want to be kind, you want to give people a chance, you want to believe the best. But experience eventually teaches you that the soul never lies. It whispers before the mind understands. It warns before the truth reveals itself. That subtle discomfort you feel around certain people is not anxiety. It is clarity. Because the energy of a person is not a mask they can hold forever. It eventually reveals itself in the micro moments, the brief flash of envy in their eyes, the coldness in their tone when you succeed, the passive resistance when you grow, the quiet satisfaction when you struggle. Their spirit speaks even when their mouth is silent. And learning to recognize this energy is not about judgment, it is about protection. The world will tell you to be open with everyone, but wisdom teaches you to be open to everyone and vulnerable with very few. Your spirit is sacred. Your peace is sacred. Your destiny is sacred. And not everyone deserves access to the inner chambers of your soul. Some people come into your life to expand you, and some come to drain you. Some arrive to mirror your light, and some arrive to break it. And once you finally see this truth, without distortion, without denial, without the desperate hope that someone might be different from what they've shown you, something inside you shifts. You stop pouring into people who create their own emptiness. You stop explaining yourself to those committed to misunderstanding you. Stop expecting loyalty from people who can't even be loyal to their own integrity. And as this clarity settles, it leads you to the next realization. A realization that unfolds like a quiet revelation in the heart, that the people who cannot love you right will always teach you how to love yourself better. 11. The moment you begin to love yourself with the same devotion you once gave to the wrong people, everything changes. Self-love is not merely an act of affirmation, it is an act of reclamation. It is the process of gathering all the pieces of yourself you scattered while trying to be enough for those who were never capable of receiving you. You reclaim the parts of you that apologize too quickly. You reclaim the parts of you that accepted less than respect. You reclaim the parts of you that shrank so others could feel comfortable. You reclaim the parts of you that softened your voice, hid your gifts, suppressed your intuition. You reclaim everything you gave away just to feel chosen. And the most profound part of this reclamation is realizing that self-love is not a feeling. It is a boundary. It is a declaration, I will not abandon myself again. It is the quiet strength that rises within you every time someone tries to pull you back into the version of yourself you have outgrown. This kind of self-love is not loud or arrogant. It is steady, it is rooted, it is unshakable. It no longer negotiates with disrespect. It no longer justifies bad behavior. It no longer waits for potential to become reality. Instead, it honors what the soul already knows. Your peace is priceless, your spirit is non-negotiable, and your heart deserves gentleness, not chaos. And slowly, you begin to see that the relationship you build with yourself sets the standard for every relationship that follows. When you learn to speak to yourself with tenderness, you no longer tolerate harshness from others. When you learn to trust yourself, you no longer give power to people who question your worth. When you learn to validate your emotions, you no longer cling to those who dismiss them. Self-love becomes your internal compass. It becomes your sanctuary. It becomes your reminder that you are whole, even when someone else fails to see your value. But this journey is not easy. Self-love requires discipline. It requires honesty. It requires sitting with your wounds instead of running from them. It requires forgiving yourself for the ways you abandoned your own heart, not out of ignorance, but out of survival. And as you heal, something extraordinary begins to happen. The things you used to chase begin to chase you. The people you once tried to earn begin to seek your presence. The opportunities you once doubted become magnetized by your inner certainty. Because when you stop needing love to fill a void, you start receiving love from a place of wholeness. And just when this transformation begins to feel complete, life whispers again, offering you the next layer of wisdom. A wisdom that asks, if self-love restores your inner world, then what happens when you finally reclaim your power? 12. Reclaiming your power is not about becoming hard, it's about becoming whole. Power is not aggression, force, or control. True power is softness protected by strength. It is compassion rooted in discernment. It is confidence that does not require validation. It is the ability to stand firmly in who you are without bending for approval, praise, or acceptance. When you reclaim your power, you stop living reactively. You stop internalizing the chaos around you. You stop allowing other people's wounds to dictate your sense of worth. You begin to understand that your emotional landscape belongs to you, not to the circumstances you face or the people who fail to understand you. And in this newfound empowerment, you rediscover your voice, not the voice you used to survive, the voice you were born with, the voice that speaks truth even when it trembles. Your voice becomes clearer, steadier, grounded in wisdom rather than fear. You no longer speak to be heard. You speak because your words carry intention. You no longer move to be seen. You move because your spirit is guiding you. You no longer choose from insecurity. You choose from alignment. This is the shift that changes everything. You begin walking differently. Your energy becomes more defined, more sovereign, more unshakable. People feel it before they understand it. Some are drawn to you because your strength inspires them. Others become uncomfortable because your growth exposes their stagnation. But none of that touches your core anymore because you have finally returned to yourself. And with power comes freedom. Freedom from overthinking. Freedom from over-explaining. Freedom from the emotional prisons you once built with your own doubt. You now understand that the only person who could ever truly imprison you was you. And the only person who could ever truly liberate you was also you. This realization becomes your foundation, the inner ground you walk upon, the quiet fortress no one can take from you. You stop trying to be understood by the wrong people. You stop seeking closure from those incapable of giving it. You stop placing your destiny in the hands of people who were never designed to hold it. You reclaim your life, you reclaim your purpose, you reclaim your identity. And just when this empowerment begins to feel like the final chapter, life softly leans closer, as if placing a gentle hand on your shoulder, and prepares you for the truth that will unfold in the next chapter of your becoming. A truth that asks, now that you have reclaimed your power, what will you do with a life that is finally yours? 13. There is a quiet shift that happens in your life the moment you stop asking for permission to be yourself. At first it feels unusual, almost rebellious. You spent years molding yourself around expectations, stretching your identity to fit someone else's comfort, shrinking your truth to avoid conflict. But something changes after you reclaim your power. You begin to realize that authenticity is not only a right, it is a responsibility. A responsibility to your soul, to your purpose, to the version of you that refuses to be hidden any longer. Authenticity does not require you to be loud. It does not require you to confront the world or declare your independence with fanfare. Authenticity is a quiet unfolding, a gentle returning. It is the courage to stand in your own frequency without bending it for approval. It is the soft but unwavering declaration, "This is who I am, and I will no longer apologize for it." And when you decide to honor your authentic self, life responds in an extraordinary way. Paths that were once blocked begin to open. Opportunities that once seemed distant start moving toward you. People who resonate with your truth begin appearing without explanation, because authenticity is magnetic. When you embrace who you are, you attract what aligns. When you pretend to be someone else, you attract what drains. This is why the world often feels heavy when you're living out of alignment. You feel like you're dragging a body that isn't yours. You feel like you're wearing a mask that keeps slipping. You feel exhausted, not because your life is busy, but because your life is dishonest. The weight of pretending is heavier than any burden of truth. But when you finally allow yourself to be real, you breathe differently. You move differently. You exist differently. You no longer abandon your voice in conversations. You no longer silence your intuition to keep peace. You no longer dim your brilliance because someone else fears their own reflection. You start to see that authenticity is not only freedom, it is direction. It tells you where to go, who to trust, what to release. It clarifies your relationships, exposing those who love the mask more than the person behind it. It reveals which environments suffocate your soul and which ones nourish it. And yes, authenticity will require you to let go. Some people will not like the real you, not because you have changed into someone worse, but because you stopped being who they needed you to be for their own comfort. Let them go. Their departure is not a loss, it is an alignment. Authenticity costs you people who never truly saw you, but it brings you people who finally do. And just when you settle into this truth, when you begin to breathe freely in your own skin again, a deeper realization unfolds before you, that your authenticity is not complete without boundaries. Boundaries that protect the truth you are finally brave enough to live. 14. Boundaries are the language of self-respect. They are not walls, not weapons, not barriers to connection, but doorways that ensure the right energy enters and the wrong energy stays out. Boundaries are the architecture of your inner world, the structure that protects your peace, your growth, your evolution. Before you learn boundaries, you move through life like an open room. Anyone can walk in, rearrange your furniture, steal pieces of your identity, and leave the door open behind them. You confuse kindness with access. You confuse love with self-abandonment. You confuse compassion with tolerance for mistreatment. And each time you say yes while your soul is whispering no, you lose a little more of yourself. But once you awaken to your worth, boundaries become essential. They become the sacred lines you draw around your heart. Not to keep love out, but to keep chaos out. Not to punish others, but to protect your path. Not to create distance, but to create clarity. A boundary is not a restriction. It is a definition. This is who I am. This is what I value. This is what I will allow. This is what I will no longer accept. And the beautiful thing about boundaries is that they don't require explanations. They don't need to convince or persuade. A boundary is not a debate, it is a decision. When you begin enforcing boundaries, you quickly discover who respects your soul and who only respects their access to it. Some will push back, not because your boundary is wrong, but because it removes the privileges they were never meant to have. Let them push back. Let their reactions reveal their intentions. Boundaries teach you to stop seeking validation from people who never valued you. They teach you to stop overextending yourself for people who only take. They teach you to stop misunderstanding your compassion as an invitation for exploitation. Boundaries transform your relationships because they force others to choose between respecting your needs or revealing their inability to love you well. And the deeper truth is this: boundaries are not about controlling others. They are about mastering yourself. They require discipline, courage, and commitment. They challenge you to uphold your truth, even when your emotions try to negotiate. They demand that you honor your inner voice more than someone else's disappointment. And when you finally begin to live with healthy boundaries, something incredible happens. Your life becomes quieter, not emptier, quieter. Peace replaces chaos. Clarity replaces confusion. You no longer spend your energy fixing what was broken by lack of boundaries in the first place. But this quiet is not the end. This quiet is a doorway, a space where your soul can finally speak without being drowned by noise. And in this quiet, another truth emerges. A truth that invites you to step into the next stage of your becoming. The stage where you no longer merely protect your power, but fully embody it. 15. Embodiment is the moment your healing stops being something you talk about and becomes something you live. It is when wisdom moves from your mind into your bones, when boundaries stop being an effort and become instinct, when self-love stops being a practice and becomes a presence, when authenticity stops being a choice and becomes your natural state. This is the stage where everything you have learned becomes who you are. Embodiment is not about perfection. It is about integration. It is about aligning your actions with your awareness. It is about living in such a way that your choices honor your growth instead of contradicting it. It is the moment you stop slipping back into old patterns because the new ones feel more like home. When you embody your transformation, you no longer chase healing. You no longer rush your journey. You no longer look backward with regret or forward with fear. You begin living in a state of grounded presence, aware, centered, unshaken by the storms around you. This embodiment shows up in subtle ways. You speak slower because your words carry intention. You listen deeper because you trust your intuition. You walk differently because your energy is aligned. You choose differently because your soul leads the way. People may not understand this version of you. They might say you've changed, and they're right. You have. You are no longer driven by impulse, fear, or insecurity. You are driven by clarity, wisdom, and purpose. And in this embodied state, you begin to notice something powerful. The world responds differently to you, not because it has changed, but because you have. You no longer tolerate chaos, so chaos no longer enters. You no longer cling to what hurts, so pain no longer holds you hostage. You no longer fear losing people, because you understand that what leaves was never aligned. Embodiment is the final stage of liberation. The moment you realize that the life you once prayed for is now the life you are living. not because someone gifted it to you, but because you became the person capable of creating it. And yet, even this is not the end. Embodiment is only the beginning of a deeper evolution, because once you fully inhabit your truth, your spirit becomes ready for the final revelation that shapes the rest of your journey, the revelation of who you are becoming next. 16. They pretend to be weak, so you lower your guard. There are people who refuse to reveal their true strength, not because they lack it, but because concealing it gives them power they couldn't gain any other way. They play small, they play fragile, they play broken. Also, you feel safe enough to open the doors of your heart wider, deeper, more completely than you normally would. It's a strange thing. The world teaches you to be kind to the wounded, but it doesn't teach you that some wounds are performances, and some performances are traps. Listen closely. There is a kind of person who studies your compassion more carefully than they study your wisdom. They test how quickly you respond to sadness, how easily your heart melts at the sight of pain, how readily you drop your boundaries when someone whispers, "I'm struggling." They do this because your empathy is their entry point. It's the key they know you'll hand over without hesitation. And once that key is given, they no longer need to appear small. Suddenly the weakness fades. Suddenly the vulnerability vanishes. Suddenly the gentle tone becomes sharp. The soft eyes become calculating, and the shaking voice becomes a command. You begin to realize that the one who seemed powerless had more power than you expected, not because they earned it, but because you gifted it. This is the subtle violence of manipulation. It doesn't begin with aggression. It begins with softness. Manipulation knows that fear pushes people away, but weakness pulls them in. The one who pretends to be weak understands that your nurturing spirit is your most beautiful trait, and also your most exploitable one. If you've ever carried someone emotionally, financially, spiritually, only to discover they were never trying to walk on their own, you already know the truth of this keynote. These individuals do not desire growth, they desire the comfort of your effort. They do not seek healing, they seek your energy to fuel their convenience. They mask dependency as innocence and helplessness as humility. But here is what you must remember. You're allowed to help. You're allowed to love. You're allowed to support. But you must also see clearly. You must recognize when someone is choosing not to rise, because remaining low benefits them. Weakness that is real invites healing. Weakness that is fake invites danger. Many have lost years of their lives to people who weaponized fragility. They poured out love like water into a bucket full of hidden cracks, not realizing the emptiness they felt afterward wasn't a failure of love. It was the result of a bottomless taker who never intended to hold anything. Some people fear your strength, so they pretend to have none. But the moment you stop questioning why they never grow, the moment you ignore the feeling that something about their helplessness is rehearsed, is the moment you step into the snare they quietly built. And the truth is, deep down, you sensed it, didn't you? That their weakness didn't feel like truth, it felt like strategy. That their timing was too perfect, that their apologies sounded memorized, that their dependence felt strangely intentional. There is a shadow here, one that hides behind trembling hands and sad stories. But shadows, no matter how well disguised, have a texture your intuition will always feel. You may not know why something feels off, but your spirit knows when a performance replaces authenticity. And this leads us to the next truth. Because some people don't just pretend to be weak, they pretend to be you. Because the higher your spirit rises, the more valuable your reflection becomes to the ones who have none. 17. They mirror you to gain access to your soul. There is a type of person who becomes a perfect echo of your identity, not because they admire you, but because mirroring is the fastest way to earn your trust. They watch how you speak, how you move, what you value, what you avoid. They memorize your desires. They copy your spirit. They accumulate your personality traits as though your entire being is a script they intend to perform. You'll hear them speak your language, use your phrases, adopt your routines, share your beliefs, reflect your dreams, and in the beginning, it feels beautiful. It feels like alignment, like destiny, like meeting a soul that finally gets you. But what you're meeting is not understanding. It is imitation. These individuals study you with the precision of an actor preparing for a role. They learn your emotional pathways like roads on a map. They know when you smile, when you soften, when your energy expands. They know what makes you proud, what makes you open, what makes you feel seen. And they mirror it all, building the illusion that you have found someone who matches your interior world. But mirroring is not bonding. It is bait, because when someone mirrors you, they are not connecting with your soul. They are learning how to access it. They show you yourself so that you lower your defenses. They become familiar, so you become available. They imitate your spirit, so you assume alignment. And once they know you trust the reflection, they step inside your heart with the intention of rearranging everything that made you whole. Mirroring feels like intimacy, but it is manipulation disguised as recognition. And here's the twist: they only mirror the strong parts of you. They copy the parts of you that shine, that lead, that glow. They have no interest in mirroring your humility, your discipline, your accountability, because they do not desire to become you. They desire the benefits of your identity without the work that created it. And gradually, the performance slips. The imitation grows inconsistent. The reflection no longer matches the original. And you feel the shift like a strange silence inside your chest. Suddenly, the person who once mirrored your kindness becomes cold. The one who mirrored your patience becomes impulsive. The one who mirrored your wisdom becomes irrational. Because the truth is simple: you can imitate a person's style, but you cannot imitate their soul. A reflection cannot maintain long-term light. Eventually, the darkness behind it reveals itself. And that moment, that quiet moment, when you realize the connection you felt was not real, but rehearsed, is the moment everything inside you begins to tighten and whisper, something is wrong. But this whisper leads to a deeper revelation. Because someone who mirrors you is not satisfied with just imitation. They seek to control the energy that created your light in the first place. 18. They drain your energy to dim your light. Energy is not an invisible concept. It is the very atmosphere of your life. Every conversation, every interaction, every presence either strengthens your inner flame or weakens it. And when you meet someone whose intentions are hidden behind smiles and softness, you will feel it long before you understand it. There's a kind of person who does not come to share energy. They come to siphon it. They do not desire connection. They desire access. They do not seek partnership. They seek power. And the most frightening part, they don't drain you openly. They drain you quietly. You start noticing that after speaking with them, your chest feels tight. After spending time with them, your heart feels exhausted. After helping them, your spirit feels strangely empty, like something invisible slipped away from your body. This draining is gradual, subtle, almost graceful in its deception, because energy thieves do not take it all at once. They take it slowly enough that you question yourself instead of them. Was it something you said? Are you just tired? Are you imagining it? No, you are not imagining it. Your body is telling the truth long before your mind catches up. The ones who drain you do so intentionally, because your light threatens the existence they built on shadows. Your confidence exposes their insecurity. Your clarity exposes their confusion. Your peace exposes their chaos. And instead of rising to meet you, they prefer to dim you so the imbalance disappears. And the moment you become tired, uncertain, doubtful, or overwhelmed, they gain exactly what they wanted: a version of you they can influence. This is why some people provoke you, why some people guilt trip you, why some people confuse you, why some people emotionally overwhelm you. Draining you is their way of reshaping you. If you are exhausted, you will not question. If you are confused, you will not resist. If you are weak, you will not walk away. This is the cruel intention behind energy manipulation. Not to take from you, but to reduce you. Because a dimmed woman is easier to control than a shining one. A tired soul is easier to persuade than a clear one. A drained heart is easier to access than a healed one. But here is the sacred truth they never expect you to realize. Your energy returns the moment you reclaim your inner authority. Your light reveals the moment you stop feeding the shadows that never deserved your warmth. Your power rises the moment you understand that your spirit is not a resource, it is a temple. And once you restore what they tried to drain, once you awaken to the truth of what you carry, you become untouchable. And now, as we arrive at the quiet end of this journey, take a breath, not a rushed breath, not a fearful one, but the kind of breath that reminds you, you are still here, still growing, still becoming. You have walked through shadows in this message, shadows of deception, manipulation, false weakness, mirrored identities, and the draining force of those who feed on your light. But even as we explore these darker corners of humanity, you must understand something essential. This was never a message about fear. It was a message about awakening. Because you do not need to fear dark people when you finally understand the strength of your own light. You do not need to fear deception when clarity becomes your second skin. And you do not need to fear the ones who try to play you small. When you have learned to stand tall from the inside out, every encounter, even the painful ones, has been shaping you, sharpening you, preparing you, not to become harder, but to become wiser, not to become cold, but to become clear, not to shrink from the world, but to walk through it with deeper vision. You see, the reason you were targeted is the same reason you are rising now. Your soul was never ordinary. Your heart was never average. Your spirit was never built for smallness. Those who dimmed you saw your brilliance before you saw it in yourself. Those who drained you tasted your power before you learned to hold it firmly. Those who manipulated you recognized your destiny before you had the courage to claim it. But now you see yourself. And the moment you truly see yourself is the moment the world changes in response. You begin to recognize patterns sooner. You feel dishonesty faster. You sense hidden motives without effort. You walk differently, not with arrogance, but with a kind of sacred confidence that says, I know who I am now, and I know what I will never allow again. This is not the end of your story. This is the beginning of your sovereignty, the beginning of emotional mastery, spiritual clarity, energetic awareness, because the deeper truth is this: no one can invade a home that is fully lived in. No one can drain a soul that is fully awake. No one can deceive a heart that has reclaimed its own wisdom. So as you leave this message, do not leave it as the person who pressed play. Leave it as the person who has returned to themselves, the one who knows their worth, the one who honors their peace, the one who listens to the whispers of intuition, as if they are sacred instructions. Walk forward gently, but walk forward knowing this: your light is not accidental. Your strength is not temporary. Your intuition is not imaginary. Your spirit is not fragile. You were built for clarity, for power, for discernment, for truth. And now that you carry this awareness, your path will no longer be shaped by who tries to deceive you. It will be shaped by who you choose to become. Go forward with grace. Go forward with wisdom. Go forward with calm authority. And above all, go forward knowing you are no longer who you were when this journey began. You have returned to yourself, and nothing in this world is stronger than that.